Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare, is no longer with us, and the resounding response has been, I'm sorry, prior authorization is required for thoughts and prayers. The person allegedly responsible, Luigi Mangione, who actually got ratted out by a McDonald's employee.
Was it worth it though, you getting minimum wage FBI didn't pay?
He's being heralded as a hero, a Robin Hood of sorts. And yes, don't worry, we will be getting to the thirst traps later on.
Oh, he's so handsome. Just like his reward posters.
The person who did this seemingly went fully prepared with a gun and bullets which were personally engraved with Deny, Defend, Depose, which was possibly inspired by a 2010 book, Delay, Deny, Defend, Why Insurance Companies Don't Pay Claims and What You Can Do About It. This is still a developing story. I'm filming this on the 11th of December, and this morning, Luigi actually got taken in by police, and this is what happened.
Send a message, but police rush him off very quickly.
Luigi is completely out of touch and insults the intelligence of the American people and lived experience.
But the most interesting thing to me has been people's reactions, and so we're going to be diving into the why, and we'll also be looking at some of the memes because we like to go on a bit of an emotional roller coaster. We'll go through all the dark stuff, but also there is some levity chucked in here, and also, can we even laugh about this? Are we allowed? Ooh, yeah, we're getting into it. Now, I do want to say I had about finished my script, and then yesterday, Legion Miller did upload her video, which goes into a whole bunch of stuff that I was going to be talking about, so I will just link her excellent video for you down below. She's also a lawyer based in the US, so has more on-the-ground sort of like lived experience. My patrons wanted me to talk about this, and the ad-free, uncensored, director's cut version of this video is already live for them on there. It's always linked for you down below in case you're interested. Without any further ado, let's get on into it.
A lot of media interest in this situation with a huge amount of misinformation and frankly offensive communication.
First, we really need to look at United Healthcare's lack of support for their customers. To put it lightly, people have not been very happy with United Healthcare, the medical insurance company, for a very long time. In this year, 2024 alone, 2 protests happened at their Minnesota headquarters, led by the People's Action Institute. One happened in April and the other one happened in July. And they actually had a casket which was labelled with United Health Denies Care. And in the July protest, 11 people got arrested. United Healthcare denies about 1/3 of all claims, the highest rate of all insurance companies and double the industry average. It's also the US's largest health insurer, providing coverage for around 50 million people and taking in $16.4 billion in profits in 2023, a year that Brian Thompson was compensated more than $10 million. Thompson, who became CEO in 2021, had raised annual profits from $12 billion to $16 billion during his tenure. And I want to remind you, that's billions with a B. And that's just profits. That's not revenue. Billions in profits. I wonder how they make so many profits. Reporting in the Wall Street Journal has found that these private insurance companies, which cover more than 1/3 of American seniors on Medicare, collect hundreds of billions of dollars from the government annually and overbill Medicare to the tune of around $10 billion per year. United Healthcare has used litigation to fight its obligation to repay fees that were overpaid. In 2020, United Healthcare acquired Navi Health, which uses an algorithm to determine the care that a patient needs, and it's used to help the Medicare Advantage program. A 2023 class action lawsuit alleges that the Navi Health algorithm has a known error rate of 90%, and yet they still use this with an alleged 90% error rate. I'm sorry, but if an employee had 90% error rate, they would have gone way long ago. Like, employees are so scrutinized for any mistakes that they potentially make.
We're supposed to help people.
We're supposed to help our people! Starting with our stockholders, Bob! Who's helping them out, huh?
But an algorithm which is making about 90% error rate, that's totally fine because it's denying patients care. You see, the thing is when these mistakes happen, it's better for the bottom line. Government investigators found that United Health had used algorithms to identify mental health care providers who they believed were treating patients too often. These identified therapists would typically receive a call from a company care advocate who would question them and then cut off reimbursements. Though some states ruled this practice illegal, it remains in play across the country. And it's not just patients who struggle with United Healthcare, it's doctors too. Dr. Sarju Matthew, a 20-year veteran physician, talked about how insurance companies are increasingly blocking critical medical procedures through complex prior authorization processes. We as doctors have been crying, screaming at the top of our lungs regarding how lots of insurance companies are denying claims on a daily basis. He cited examples of patients being unable to obtain routine tests like mammograms without extensive bureaucratic hurdles. But it's not just United Healthcare is really all insurance companies. In other words, the whole system is rotten to the core. Patient after patient has been sharing their struggles or their family's struggles with United Healthcare. Gee, UHC, when my kid had their period during a 45-day hospital stay, you wouldn't allow their family to bring in pads, but made us pay $5 each for the several used. You charged us for the halter they needed to use in order to learn to walk again. You charged us for the freaking crayons that were used for art therapy. Charging people for the most banal and basic things when someone's kid is in hospital for 45 days trying to learn to walk again. What the hell? And I'm sure down in the comments below, you'll be sharing your many, many stories. As for Brian Thompson, he was one of the executives at United Healthcare, was under investigation by the Department of Justice. He sold more than $50 million worth of company stock in February this year, just before it went public that the DOJ was investigating the company over accusations of insider trading. Coincidence? I think not. And the New York Post reported that Thompson had used bodyguards in the past. It was normal operation for that company that they would have their own private security team to take care of their corporate executives. I've told you, I've been an executive assistant. I've looked after people at the top, not like the CEO level, but below that, okay? And none of those people, CEOs included, had bodyguards. Like, it's such a weird thing to me. Maybe this is just a thing here in Aotearoa, but we don't really have like the gun issue that you do in the US. But seriously, why would a CEO need bodyguards unless they were doing some sort of evil villain sort of stuff that they were worried people would want to come after them about? Like, it feels very mob bossy, you know? And his wife Paulette said, there have been some threats, basically, I don't know, a lack of coverage, I don't know details. I just know that he said that there were some people that have been threatening him. For me personally anyway, I tell Brandon exactly what you mean people say to me. I tell him everything that goes on. And honestly, for the people that are butthurt, he really just mocks you, I've got to say. But if there's anything that's serious, he gets copies of things. He knows exactly what I'm working on. He knows all the things that are going on. I've told you there's a bunch of men out there that don't like me, even though I explicitly say I'm against patriarchy, not against men. And geez, anyway. But seriously, if any of them had made a serious threat to me, Brandon would be across all of that. The police would be involved. Like, he would know everything about you. I would know everything too, because that's the sort of person I am. But seriously, for his wife to just be so blasé about this, that makes no sense to me. I'm just a teeny weeny content creator here on YouTube. I've only got 86,000 subscribers now? That is not many. He is a CEO of a huge company. Why would his wife not know more? Seriously. So is it just United Healthcare, or do we need to look at the entire state of the US healthcare? And as one of my patrons so wisely said, this is what happens when people have easier access to guns and to healthcare. And oof, if that doesn't sum up the darkness that is the US, I don't know what does. It's not uncommon in the US to see GoFundMes for people's life-saving care or to cover people's medical bills, like for some really basic stuff. The situation in the richest country on the planet makes no sense to me, because in 2021 there was a 7-year-old girl who was selling lemonade in order to be able to afford her brain surgeries. An American Medical Association 2023 survey showed 94% of physicians said prior authorization delayed care, and 78% said it sometimes led to patients abandoning treatment. Nearly 1 in 4 reported it had resulted in a serious adverse event for patients. Luigi, the alleged shooter, had back injuries and had to have spinal surgery, and this was something which absolutely, people have kind of pointed out, led him down quite a path, because he'd been reading a whole bunch of books on back pain, on all sorts of issues. He was quite an avid reader, it seems. Apparently he read the Unabomber's manifesto and left a positive review on Goodreads. When all other forms of communication fail, violence is necessary to survive. Peaceful protest is outright ignored. So how long until we recognize that violence against those who lead us to such destruction is justified as self-defense? US healthcare spending per capita is nearly twice the average of other wealthy countries. However, despite high healthcare spending, America's health outcomes aren't any better than other developed countries. United States actually performs worse in some common health metrics like life expectancy, infant mortality, unmanaged diabetes, and safety during childbirth. Avoidable death per 100,000 people in the population in the US are higher than the OECD average. Treatable mortality can be avoided mainly through timely and effective healthcare interventions, including regular exams, screenings, and treatment. And the US has the highest rate of infant and maternal mortality in the OECD. So it's pretty safe to say that healthcare is very screwed in the US unless you have buckets and buckets of money. And people on the right and the left don't have that kind of money, despite how much like the Democrats were appealing to billionaires and everything like that. Oh, is this becoming a class solidarity struggle? Because like I've been saying before, we all need to be rising up against them, because that's the 1%. We're never going to be them. We are so close to houselessness in comparison to being one of them. And I feel the reason that this story is actually striking a nerve with people internationally is that yes, the US is a very unique situation with the fact it doesn't have any public healthcare, but in countries which do have public healthcare, they've actually been floundering for so many years, and it really does come down to a haves versus have-nots situation in so many different countries. Here in Aotearoa, so many people go without any doctor care or any dental care because they simply cannot afford it. Even though we do have emergency care that's free, you can't get other care. And funding for public healthcare continually gets slashed, and people have to go on strike. Like nurses went on strike just over a week ago now, and it makes complete sense why they're having to do that. We have doctor shortages here. There are so many multi-layered issues. In Germany, there is a healthcare issue with the fact that there are not enough doctors for people because they don't earn enough over there. And so people are leaving the profession. One of my patrons raised that in Germany, insurance only covers a certain amount of chemo if it's working, but not fast enough. So if you go over that amount, they stop paying for it, and you have to either pay out of pocket or you die effectively, even though it's a universal healthcare. Canada has also been in a healthcare crisis with the haves versus have-nots becoming so incredibly apparent. Like, I could go on about a huge list of other countries, and I'm sure that you'll be sharing your experiences below, but this is why I'm saying this is something which is resonating with people globally, even if the US situation is unique in the fact that they don't have any, quote, universal healthcare. Even in the countries where they do have that, funding for it gets slashed so often that it's making it actually unusable for a lot of people. What do you reckon? Will that become the anthem of 2025? It's such a bop, I wouldn't object. The people are united on one thing. Healthcare should be accessible. Like I said, the thing which interests me the most is that the left and right are both saying that what's been happening is not okay. Could this be the thing which helps people humanize each other to do class solidarity instead? Because that would be great. Even Ben Shapiro's loyal audience said he had the wrong take when he was trying to allege that leftists were reveling in the CEO's murder. As I was finishing writing this, he uploaded a video today. The media is justifying violence by calling Brian Thompson evil. I found it 4 minutes after it went live, and the comment section was already telling him off. This is not right versus left, this is rich versus poor, the elite versus the common man. And you know what? I couldn't find his original video where he was saying that it was all of the evil leftists that were cheering on someone's death. What about your integrity, Ben? What about standing by your word, Ben? But luckily, meme accounts like St. Hoax exist. Here's some of people's reactions. I'm not buying this left versus right anymore, Ben. I want healthcare for my family. Wow, maybe I've been wrong this entire time. Ben, I don't think you actually care about us. I think you just want our money. I think you want us to hate each other. Unsubbed. Find another audience to play apologists to the people who help make the lives of hardworking Americans difficult. But Matt Walsh kept his very unpopular video live, and I just had a quick scroll down to see like some of the most liked and most common comments. And I wanted to make sure that I was looking at people who are more typically long-term subscribers, you can sometimes tell. Long-time Daily Wire watcher here. The bizarre insistence that it's just the left celebrating the CEO getting clipped makes me think of one of two things about you, Matt. A, you are brutally out of touch. B, you are mostly just a mouthpiece for corporate interests for the Daily Wire that required tribalization and fighting between everyday normal people. 41% of Americans have medical debt. It's not a right versus left, it's rich versus poor. And I also fact-checked that stat, and they are correct. According to KFF polling, 41% of adults have healthcare debt according to a broader definition, which includes healthcare debt on credit cards or owed to family members. We aren't left-wing for hating a guy whose bread and butter was literally other people's suffering, Matt. I'm not saying you or anyone should be cheering on his death, but you're definitely out of touch with regular people when it comes to the issue of health insurance. L take. And insurance companies have been swiftly taking down the photos and bios of their CEOs. It's almost like they're running a little bit scared. Do they think there's going to be copycats? I know that there was a lookalike contest, but copycat contest hasn't happened yet. I'm also positive a lot of them are getting bodyguards too, and I think that business is about to boom. So what? Is this the start of an uprising against the rich and realizing that class solidarity is the way forward? You know Luigi, the alleged shooter? He grew up rich. This dude was privileged as all hell, and yet he's the one that went ahead and did sort of like this quote-unquote Robin Hood act. And that brings us on to the big question. Is it ever okay to celebrate the death of someone?
What's going on? Why are you crying?
A person is dead. I feel sad.
That's insane. You don't feel sad when a monster dies in a monster movie.
Thank you so much to one of my longtime followers, Levi, for sending me that. When United Health made their Facebook post about Thompson's death, they had to shut off comments because they were getting too mean. And also the laugh reaction emoji, how much had that been used? More than 40,000 times. As this New Yorker headline states, a man was murdered in cold blood and you're laughing? The overwhelming response is, yeah, actually. I've legit seen so many comments of people trying to protect the identity of Luigi. Like seriously, when I was watching Philip DeFranco's video covering this story when it happened, what was it, yesterday, the day before, people were like, no, it couldn't be him. He was with me. He was rescuing a cat. He's a great guy. There's even this post identifying him as a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. But this is where things get morally grey, right? Like we've literally just had the movie Wicked come out where people were burning this huge effigy of Elphaba, who was an activist who was working against the system. However, this isn't someone going against the system. This is someone that was using the system to their full advantage to hurt a whole bunch of people, in my opinion. But even if he was CEO of this horrible company, he had a family, you know, he had a wife, he had kids. Like, how heartbreaking would it be to be one of those kids to just get told, oh, your dad was shot, I'm so sorry, he's gone now. Like, I can't actually imagine how horrible that would be, you know, and then have people that you go to school with, people that you go to college with, laughing about it, sharing memes about it, and you're here just like grieving. That must be awful, right? For them, I feel for them. We've seen people rejoice when there's been a death of a vile political leader, say recently with Henry Kissinger. Nobody was sad when he died, really, were they? And if you don't know all of the horrible things that Henry Kissinger did, John Oliver has like a fairly short video which covers some of it, but you could go on for days about how much damage that guy did.
If you live in America, you might view him as a controversial figure, but if you live in Chile, Argentina, Vietnam, Cambodia, East Timor, Bangladesh, or anywhere else on Earth, you know that's maybe the most obscene understatement of all time.
I remember when the Queen passed, if people weren't actively mourning her, then they were being shamed and being told that they were such a horrible person. But we're not really seeing that when it comes to this situation, right? Because this is a CEO whose company has sadly, tragically, actively hurt thousands of people. I've never wished a man dead, but I have read some obituaries with great pleasure. Clarence Darrow. And do you know where I found that quote? On a Christian subreddit. I'm not even kidding you. Like, yeah, when I say this conversation has been far-reaching, I really mean it. And it turns out that there is Psalm 58. It's a prayer for vengeance. Like, I didn't know that the Bible went this metal. One which really punched me in the gut was, if third graders can get used to the constant threat of murder, so can you, with a little child saying that to clearly an old business executive. And this just really hits home about like how dire it is in the US, how kids go to school every day, and sadly like school shootings have become so tragically common there. And then you have all of these CEOs, just like I've been saying throughout this video, I thought that security would get beefed up, and it 100% has been. And just seeing like this dichotomy of like these innocent kids having to live in fear, and then you have these CEOs that are just like, oh, now I'm scared. And it's like, well, no one's protecting any of the kids, are they? The difference here is, I guess, that Luigi, or whoever did it, because it couldn't have been Luigi, because so many people say that they've got heaps of alibis for him, is going against someone rich who upheld a really bad system. This was allegedly, in my opinion, undoubtedly premeditated, right? They went prepared with their gun, with their engraved bullets, with their bag, with the Monopoly money trick. Like, this was something that was well thought out, and also the manifesto, which has come out too. The CEO wasn't in government, but they were in a position of power, and you know what? A lot of lobbying actually happened by that company towards the government. And the thing is, the government is so intertwined with money and with businesses that instead, sorry, I've been bringing this up for so many years at this point, but instead of putting the necessary guardrails and rules against businesses to protect the people of the country who you're meant to be looking after, they're instead bending to the will of businesses, which just makes things worse overall. Because hey, as I keep on saying, capitalism doesn't care. It's all about the growth model. It's all about the bottom line. fine. And the way to make more money as an insurance company is to not pay out anybody's claims. But the memes have been coming through thick and fast, and thank you to everybody on Instagram that replied sending me stuff because I really do appreciate it. So here's a little bit of dark humor for you because, hey, I have to show you what people are laughing at in order to see, is this okay to do or is it not? People have made Spotify playlists. There's also this meme. Shoots a health insurance CEO, escapes on a bicycle, writes deny defend to pose on the bullet shells, leaves a decoy backpack full of Monopoly money for the pigs. I can't lie, that one really cracked me up. Same as a lookalike contest that happened in New York. This stuff all happened so fast. All of these people copying the style of this sort of modern day Robin Hood. And it doesn't even look like he's on the left anyway when people look at Luigi's account. It looks like he follows people like Peter Thiel. He doesn't even seem like he's on the left side at all. And yet people are still celebrating him as a person of the people. He's kind of growing into a legend like Robin Hood, and I swear the trial is just gonna get so very interesting, and I bet there's gonna be so many think pieces which come out all about this. We gotta do it. We've gotta talk about how thirsty people are being, like Taylor Tomlinson.
Everyone thinks the shooter is hot, but I feel confident that I'm the only late night host who can honestly say, would.
Reductress posted, man engages in beautiful Italian-American tradition of taking matters into his own hands. Simpsons Lab on Instagram showed Lisa reading a magazine titled Non-Threatening Boys with him on the cover. I can't get over the banner. Pokemon, the surgery that most likely radicalized him, and Thirst Trap. No, seriously, this is his Twitter or X picture. Like I said, I've been reading through the comment sections and people are saying he's gonna be all kinds of male in prison. People are either pedestaling Luigi or objectifying Luigi. Just a little heads up, we're still learning about this guy, okay? We don't know how much of a nice guy he actually is. Am I positive that a lot of this is done in jest? Absolutely. At least I'm telling myself that because I still do not understand people that thirst after like serial killers and stuff. It seriously does not make sense in my mind. But I also had many crushes on rock stars in the past and they turned out to be very terrible people. So hey, who am I to judge? We also have to recognize that if this dude was not a white, rich, good-looking guy, he would be getting viewed incredibly differently. Imagine if he was just an older guy, then he wouldn't be viewed quite as positively. He'd be viewed as someone going through a midlife crisis or something. And if he was a black man, oh my goodness, the police certainly wouldn't be treating him as well, would they? Have you seen the amount of merch that people are trying to sell about him? I can guarantee when the trial is going on, ooh, that is just going to be skyrocketing. The memes that are going to come out of that, it's gonna be a lot. Oh, and you know the jacket he was wearing? It's pretty famous now. And it seems that a Redditor tracked it down to like this link on Macy's. And in 48 hours, it sold over 700 units. Lookism, attractiveness bias, the halo effect, whatever you want to call it, I am positive that is having an effect on how people are seeing him. Truly I am. I'm sure that a whole bunch of these thirst memes are just joking about the fact that he's a good looking guy. And if it were a woman that was equally good looking, then I'm sure the same thing would be happening. And then people would be saying stop objectifying her, but because it's a man, people are more comfortable with objectifying a man. I don't know, I'm just saying, I've talked about this before and people don't like it when I bring it up. But yeah, let's just hope he doesn't turn out to be a misogynist or something, okay? Because if we want to have some sort of like Robin Hood kind of figure, even though I do have to say, I do not condone violence, I do not think that what happened was a good thing, and I don't want anybody to be copying what happened, okay? I have to make it incredibly clear. Google, listen, I do not want any of this stuff to happen. I am not endorsing any of this. I do not endorse or condone violence, okay? But there is one other thing to take into consideration here, because do you remember Carl Rittenhouse? He was allowed to walk free, and so people are saying, well, if he was allowed, then why wouldn't Luigi be allowed, you know? The most liked responses I've seen, he has no prior arrest. I'm thinking probation and community service should be a reasonable punishment. Why would we ruin a young man's life for 5 minutes of action? Ooh, I'm very sure that so many women out there felt that like a bit of a knife, because I know I certainly did. But it is true, right? Like the justice system in the US is pretty screwed. And someone also sent me this TikTok where it seems like people were clogging up like the tip line with all of these false accusations about people that they didn't like or their bullies in high school. They're mass reporting that it was immature. Who knew we'd find such unity at the end of 2024, right? Okay, let's be serious and get onto my final thoughts, because do I think that the actions of this one guy are gonna change things forever for the US? No, I don't. I think one thing that's definitely going to change is that CEOs are going to normalize having bodyguards in place. Absolutely. And sadly, that's also going to be costing them more. And they're going to say, oh, well, we've had increased admin costs recently due to terror threats or whatever they're going to say. They're going to use some sort of excuses, and so then premiums will go up, no doubt. They'll find any sort of excuse. But that's because I'm cynical, that I'm thinking this way. I could be wrong. But there was one good thing that happened, right? Anthem Blue Cross is reversing their policy to limit anesthesia coverage. Oh, and whilst I was editing, a patron sent me this too. My girlfriend works at a pharmacy. They're seeing 0 denied claims this morning, when usually close to half are denied, or requiring prior authorization. Everything's going through today. Or maybe they're just going to spend more on lobbying the government, who knows. But the most important thing I want people to recognize is there's been this collective response of the system is broken. And as one of my patrons was rightfully pointing out in a conversation I was having with them, the system is working exactly how it should be. The system is doing very well and is functioning exactly as it was supposed to, for those who created it. And 99% of society is not included in this group. You can't fix something that was originally designed not to work, at least not to work for you. Yeah, I've really got to say I love my patrons, a very intelligent and funny group of people. So if the system is working as it's supposed to, then what are we meant to do? Do the things which people like me and so many others on the left keep on bringing up all the time. Focus on the things that you can control within your community. Mutual aid is so very important. Doing community care is incredibly important as well. And you know what? The politicians, they're in their positions because we vote them in, right? Make sure that they know the things that you want to change. Make sure that you are annoying the hell out of them because, like I've said before, our anger shouldn't really be directed at each other. It should be directed higher up. Do you remember Dr. Matthew that I brought up earlier? For the US specifically, he argued that meaningful change would require congressional action, suggesting legislators should mandate transparency around insurance denial rates and restore medical decision-making power to physicians and patients, and he called for removing insurance companies' ability to arbitrate medical necessities, particularly in critical procedures like knee replacements for patients with severe arthritis. Make sure that they know that you cannot put corporate greed over human health. And that is just something that we keep on seeing all the time. It's like the whole greed is good thing, and it's just BS. It's not good. Anyway, there's not going to be a video next week because my next video is that big video on how patriarchy hurts us, on abusive relationships, on how to help people, all sorts of stuff. So it's going to be a big video, so nothing next week. Hell, maybe it will come out in time for Christmas. Just something to cheer you up, hey? Ready for the end of the year. But I promise it's not going to be just full of sadness. It's going to be full of action and hope and things that everyone can do. Men, women, every single gender in between. Seriously. That's what I want to do with my video because I'm nothing if not an obnoxious source of like ferocious and angry hope. I guess that's probably the best way that I'd say it. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, should we have like the backpack and X-ray emoji? Because I just feel like it's fitting. Again, I'm not condoning what Luigi apparently did. I just think it's fitting for like this situation that we're dealing with because, you know, healthcare is a human right? That's why we're leaving this, so why don't you say that as well? And thank you so much to all of my patrons as always for your continued support, especially to my top tier Trash Panda enablers: Alyssa Pisani, Alyssa Schmidt, Birgit, Carrie Quake, Laura Bell, Jam, Mila Gautier, Stella Sapiente, Tammy Poitres, Tim Long, Tonya Beignet, and Zachary Elaloof. I really appreciate it so much, and I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your week. We're gonna, like I said, this is a developing story, so we're gonna see all the other stuff that's happening. And if you missed the other video which I made this week, because wow, look at you getting 2 videos in 1 week, aren't you lucky? Go and watch it here because I really enjoyed doing that deep dive and I think there's a bigger conversation to be had. Otherwise, I'll see you next time for the extra big video, and it's going to be a fundraiser, and yeah, there's going to be so much going on, and I appreciate anyone that watches it because I'll be donating a big portion of my AdSense from that video because there's places that need it. Okay. Bye everyone.